Imagine waking up one day to discover that everything you thought you knew about your own history was incomplete. Not just a little incomplete, but profoundly, fundamentally missing. What if the grand narrative of human civilization that we all learned in school, the one that traces our ascent from hunter-gatherers to sophisticated societies, is merely the tip of a much, much larger iceberg? What if, before the pyramids of Egypt, before the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, before the very concept of agriculture, there existed something else entirely? A world that flourished, developed, and perhaps even achieved heights of knowledge and technology we are only now beginning to comprehend. This isn't just a fascinating thought experiment. It's a question that echoes through the ancient stones, the forgotten myths, and the inexplicable artifacts scattered across our planet. The official story is that human civilization began in Sumeria roughly 6,000 years ago with the invention of writing and organized cities. But what if this isn't the beginning at all, but rather a re-beginning? What if the true dawn of human sophistication lies buried beneath layers of geological time, obscured by cataclysmic events, and deliberately forgotten or suppressed by subsequent cultures? This deep dive isn't about wild speculation without evidence. It's about connecting the dots, examining the anomalies, and listening to the faint whispers of a time that was, by all accounts, largely erased. It's about acknowledging the enduring mystery, the human fascination with lost eras, and the tantalizing possibility that not everything was truly lost. Think about that for a moment. An entire epoch, potentially rich with innovation, artistry, and complex societies, vanished almost without a trace, leaving behind only the most resilient fragments. But here's the thing. Those fragments are speaking to us, if we only bother to listen. But how does a world get erased? How can knowledge, technology, even entire civilizations simply vanish from the collective memory, leaving barely a ripple in the historical record? This isn't just about the natural decay of time. It's about methods and motives, both natural and man-made, that conspired to wipe the slate clean. Let's start with the most dramatic and indiscriminate eraser of all: natural catastrophes. Global deluges, like the one recounted in countless flood myths worldwide, would not merely scour landscapes, but also bury or obliterate human settlements. Seismic events, on a scale we struggle to imagine, could reshape continents, plunging coastal cities into the ocean and leveling everything on shore. Periods of rapid climate shift, such as the Younger Dryas impact event, which triggered an abrupt return to glacial conditions about 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, could have rendered vast swathes of land uninhabitable, forcing migrations and the abandonment of advanced infrastructure. Think about a sudden, dramatic ice age descending upon a region, burying cities under glaciers for millennia, or a series of tsunamis wiping out coastal metropolises. The sheer scale of geological time and the forces at play within our planet are capable of an erasure so complete that it leaves very little for future generations to find. Then there's the human element, arguably even more devastating in its deliberate destruction. Wars and invasions throughout history have routinely sought to not just conquer, but to annihilate the culture of the defeated. The burning of the Library of Alexandria, though perhaps exaggerated in its completeness, serves as a powerful symbol of humanity's capacity to destroy its own intellectual heritage. Conquerors often sought to erase the history of the vanquished to solidify their own narrative, tearing down monuments, melting down artifacts, and suppressing knowledge. Imagine countless such destructions, repeated across millennia, each chipping away at the fragile edifice of memory. And what about the simple passage of time itself? Most ancient structures were built from organic materials: wood, thatch, unfired brick, which rapidly decay. Imagine entire complex societies, built primarily of perishable materials. What evidence would remain thousands of years later? Very little, save for the most resilient stone foundations, or discarded pottery shards. The constant cycle of building on top of older settlements further buries and obscures evidence, turning cities into layer cakes of forgotten eras. Even oral traditions, the bedrock of early knowledge transfer, are susceptible to gradual loss, misinterpretation, or deliberate alteration over countless generations. A story told for 1,000 years will inevitably mutate, losing its specificity and often morphing into myth, obscuring the original historical kernel it once contained. This multifaceted erasure, both accidental and intentional, paints a sobering picture of how profoundly a world before could have been lost to us. But despite this relentless erasure, there are architectural ghosts, silent sentinels that defy easy explanation and stubbornly refuse to fit into our established timelines. These megalithic mysteries, scattered across the globe, whisper of advanced techniques and sophisticated understandings that seem utterly out of place for their purported creators. Take Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey, for instance. Discovered in the mid-1990s, this site predates Egyptian pyramids by several millennia and Stonehenge by 6,000 years. Its monumental carved stone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons and adorned with intricate animal reliefs, were erected by hunter-gatherer societies around 10,000 to 9,000 BCE. This completely upends the conventional archaeological narrative that organized, complex societies and monumental architecture only arose after the advent of agriculture. Göbekli Tepe suggests monumental communal efforts before agriculture, challenging everything we thought we knew about the origins of civilization. Imagine that for a moment: hunter-gatherers, supposedly nomadic and primitive, organizing massive construction projects requiring advanced planning, engineering, and sustained cooperation. It's mind-boggling. Then we move to South America, to Pumapunku and Tiahuanaco in Bolivia. The stonework here is absolutely astounding. Massive blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, are cut with such incredible precision, with perfect right angles, flat surfaces, and intricate H-shaped cuts, that they interlock like giant Legos, without mortar. The stone itself is a hard, igneous rock, like diorite, which is incredibly difficult to work even with modern tools. Mainstream archaeology attributes this to Bronze Age civilizations using rudimentary tools like stone hammers and chisels. But seriously, how do you achieve such perfect cuts, such geometric precision, and move such colossal stones over long distances with only a hammer and chisel? The level of engineering and mathematical understanding required seems far beyond what we attribute to these cultures. It makes you wonder, and what about the sheer, undeniable presence of the Great Pyramid of Giza? Its construction remains a subject of intense debate, even today. The casing stones were fitted with such precision that a razor blade couldn't be inserted between them. The pyramid is aligned to true north with incredible accuracy and incorporates mathematical constants like pi and phi within its dimensions. The logistics of lifting and placing millions of multi-ton blocks with such exactitude, especially the precision-cut internal chambers and passages, continue to baffle engineers. And it's not just Giza. Other anomalous structures across Egypt, like the Osirion at Abydos, feature massive cyclopean stonework that seems to predate the readily explained dynastic period. These architectural anomalies are not isolated incidents, they are global. Consider the enigmatic Yonaguni monument off the coast of Japan. This submerged rock formation, with its sharp angles, flat surfaces, terraces, and steps, looks uncannily like a man-made structure. Geologists argue it's a natural phenomenon shaped by tectonic activity and erosion. However, its regularity and features lead others to speculate that it could be a submerged city or ceremonial site from a civilization that existed when sea levels were much lower, perhaps at the end of the last ice age. Underwater archaeology is a field still in its infancy, offering just a glimpse of what might lie hidden beneath the waves. Remnants of coastal civilizations swallowed by rising waters. These megalithic structures act as powerful reminders that our understanding of ancient capabilities might be severely understated hinting at a world where technology and collective effort reached levels we are still trying to reconcile with our current historical narrative. They are concrete echoes of a potential past that was far more sophisticated than we permit ourselves to believe. The very existence of these sites compels us to ask, what else have we missed? Beyond the tangible stones, there's another, more ethereal echo of a lost world, the collective memory imprinted in myth and legend. It's fascinating how cultures separated by vast oceans and millennia, with no apparent contact, share strikingly similar narratives about profound historical events. Global flood myths are perhaps the most compelling example. From Noah's Ark in the Judeo-Christian tradition to the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia, indigenous tales from the Inuit of the Arctic, to Aboriginal Dreamtime stories in Australia, to the legends of the Maya and Aztec in Central America, the theme is remarkably consistent. A catastrophic deluge that wiped out humanity, with only a few survivors tasked with restarting civilization. This isn't just a coincidence, is it? The sheer universality of these stories suggests a shared, traumatic memory, a cataclysmic event so profound that its echo reverberated across continents and generations, transcending linguistic and cultural barriers. Think about that for a moment. An event so massive, so all-encompassing, that it burned itself into the psyche of humanity across the entire planet. Then we have the pervasive stories of golden ages or paradise lost, periods of idyllic existence, abundant resources, and advanced knowledge before a great fall or cataclysm. From Hesiod's 5 Ages of Man, starting with the Golden Age, to Plato's account of Atlantis as a technologically advanced civilization that was swallowed by the sea, these narratives speak of a time when humanity lived in harmony, perhaps with greater wisdom or closer to divine understanding, only to lose it all due to hubris, natural disaster, or divine intervention. Figures like Prometheus, who brought fire and knowledge to humanity, or the Quetzalcoatl character in Mesoamerican mythology, who taught agriculture, writing, and metallurgy, can be seen as symbolic representations of powerful primordial beings or cultures who bestowed advanced knowledge upon nascent civilizations, only to disappear or be forgotten. What if these aren't just fanciful tales, but fragmented memories of real events? What if these golden ages were indeed earlier epochs of human flourishing, prior to the Great Reset that necessitated a slow, laborious rebuilding of knowledge? The role of oral tradition here is critical, but also a double-edged sword. While it's astonishing how accurately stories can be preserved over hundreds, even thousands of years, they are also prone to alteration, embellishment, and symbolic interpretation. A historical event, passed down through myriad tellings, can gradually shed its factual details and acquire a mythological sheen, becoming more archetypal than literal. Yet the core truth, the essence of the experience, often remains. The uniformity of these myths acts as a signpost, a breadcrumb trail left by our distant ancestors, pointing towards a massive singular event or a series of interconnected experiences that profoundly shaped the human story. These aren't just children's stories. They are the ancient language of human experience, desperately trying to convey something vitally important about where we came from and what we might have endured. Sometimes, the whispers of the past aren't in grand stones or epic tales, but in the meticulous craftsmanship of forgotten technologies and lost arts. These are the items that make you scratch your head and ask, how did they do that? They challenge our preconceived notions of when certain levels of understanding were achieved. One of the most astounding examples is the Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. Dating back to the 2nd century BCE, this complex bronze device is an astronomical calculator of astonishing sophistication. It could predict eclipses, track the movements of celestial bodies, and even model the Olympic Games cycle, all with intricate gears and dials. Historians used to believe such clockwork complexities only emerged over a millennium later in medieval Europe. The Antikythera mechanism completely rewrites that timeline, demonstrating a level of scientific and mechanical understanding that seems utterly out of place for that era. It makes you wonder what else they were capable of. Then consider the enigmatic Baghdad battery. Discovered in Iraq in 1936, this artifact consists of a clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod. While its exact purpose is debated, some researchers propose it was an ancient electrical battery capable of generating a small current. If true, this suggests a rudimentary understanding of electrochemistry around 250 BCE, thousands of years before Volta's experiments. Again, the anomaly challenges our linear progression of scientific discovery. What if this wasn't an isolated invention, but a surviving fragment of a broader knowledge base? Imagine a society with enough electrical understanding to power simple tools or engage in electroplating. And what about materials science? The Roman Empire was renowned for its concrete, particularly its hydraulic concrete used for harbours and maritime structures. This concrete, made with volcanic ash, has proven incredibly durable, with some Roman structures still standing strong after 2 millennia, even underwater. Modern concrete often degrades much faster. The exact recipe and some of the chemical processes behind its superior longevity have been lost. Similarly, ancient Egyptian pigments retain their vibrant colors to this day, colors that modern chemistry struggles to reproduce with the same resilience. These aren't just minor details. They represent lost knowledge, lost mastery of materials that we are still trying to rediscover. Time. In the Americas, pre-Columbian metallurgy offers more puzzles. Civilizations like the Incas were master gold and silversmiths, creating intricate designs and alloys. While they didn't extensively use iron, their ability to work with precious metals, often cold hammering and annealing them into sophisticated forms, speaks to a deep understanding of material properties. Their immense astronomical observatories, like those of the Maya, were not just for stargazing. They were incredibly precise calendrical devices, tracking celestial cycles with an accuracy that rivals modern calculations. Their understanding of mathematics, particularly their use of zero and a vigesimal number system, allowed for incredibly complex astronomical predictions. These seemingly out-of-place artifacts and skills suggest a pattern, fragmented glimpses of highly sophisticated practices that thrived, then seemingly vanished, leaving only these tantalizing clues behind. This isn't just about a few clever individuals. It hints at institutional knowledge and a shared scientific endeavor that was subsequently lost. The past speaks to us, but its language is often unfamiliar, encoded in symbols, stones, and alignments. Decoding this surviving language is the ongoing quest of scholars and researchers striving to understand the world that was. Consider petroglyphs and cave paintings found across the globe, from the Chauvet Cave in France dating back over 30,000 years to the rock art of Aboriginal Australians. These aren't just primitive doodles, they are complex visual narratives, often depicting animals, humans, and sometimes abstract symbols whose meaning we can only guess at. What messages were our unimaginably distant ancestors trying to convey? Are they records of historical events, spiritual beliefs, or even maps of celestial phenomena? The sophistication of the artistry itself, particularly the vivid depictions of movement and three-dimensionality in some cave paintings, suggests highly developed cognitive abilities and cultural practices long before the agricultural revolution. The significance of astronomical alignments in ancient structures is another crucial piece of this puzzle. Stonehenge, Newgrange, the pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, all are meticulously aligned with solstices, equinoxes, and specific stellar constellations. These aren't random orientations. They demonstrate an acute understanding of celestial mechanics and a desire to embody that knowledge in monumental architecture. What was the purpose of this deep astronomical encoding? Was it purely ritualistic, or did it serve a more practical function, perhaps for precise calendrical systems essential for agriculture or even navigation? Some theories even suggest that certain alignments might record specific cosmic events or star maps from a much earlier time, pointing to knowledge passed down across vast timescales. This isn't just about looking at the sky. It's about embedding that profound observation into the very fabric of their world. Then there are the numerous undeciphered scripts and symbols found in various ancient contexts. The Indus Valley script, Linear A from Minoan Crete, the Rongorongo script of Easter Island. These systems of writing remain largely enigmatic. Each represents a lost voice, a sealed vault of potential information. What wisdom, what histories, what technological insights might be locked away in these symbols? The very existence of such complex, unreadable scripts suggests societies capable of abstract thought, record-keeping, and knowledge transfer, adding another layer to the enigma of lost civilizations. And let's not overlook the mathematical and geometric principles embedded in ancient architecture, not just in their execution, but often in their very design. The consistent appearance of ratios, like the golden ratio and other specific geometric forms in disparate ancient structures, suggests a shared, sophisticated mathematical understanding that transcends simple observation or trial and error. This points to a common root of knowledge, perhaps originating from a lost epoch and then re-expressed in different cultures. The ongoing efforts to decipher these silent languages represent a monumental undertaking, inching us closer to understanding the messages our ancestors left behind, messages that could fundamentally alter our understanding of human prehistory. It's a continuous unveiling, a slow reveal of what was deliberately or accidentally obscured. So, where does this leave us in our quest to understand the world before civilization was, for all intents and purposes, erased? We've journeyed through the methods of erasure, from cataclysmic floods and ice ages to human-induced destruction and the relentless decay of time. We've examined the architectural ghosts, Göbekli Tepe, Pumapunku, the Great Pyramid, and the submerged potential of Yonaguni, each standing as a testament to capabilities that defy our conventional timelines. We've delved into the deep currents of human memory, finding global flood myths and tales of golden ages that echo across cultures, suggesting a shared, traumatic past. We've unearthed fragments of forgotten technologies like the Antikythera mechanism and the Baghdad battery, alongside the lost arts of Roman concrete and Egyptian pigments, reminding us that knowledge is not a linear progression. And we've considered the language of the past, encoded in petroglyphs, astronomical alignments, and undeciphered scripts, waiting for us to unlock their secrets. The most compelling takeaway from this journey is that while much has indeed been erased, enough tantalizing clues remain to fuel ongoing research and speculation. The world before is not entirely lost. It's simply deeply buried, fragmented, and often misunderstood. Our perception of history is not static. It's an evolving narrative, constantly being reshaped by new archaeological discoveries, innovative scientific analysis, and the courage to question established paradigms. The very fact that these anomalies exist, that these questions persist, means that our understanding of deep antiquity is far from complete. Think about the countless undiscovered sites, the unexamined artifacts, the still untranslated texts that future generations might bring to light. Each new find has the potential to dramatically shift our perspective. The open questions that compel continued investigation into deep antiquity aren't just academic curiosities. They tap into a fundamental human desire to understand our true origins, to grasp the vastness of time and our place within it. What kind of societies existed? What did they achieve? What lessons did they learn? And what mistakes did they make that led to their near-total disappearance? These are profound questions that resonate deeply. This isn't just about uncovering old ruins. It's about understanding the full spectrum of the human story, acknowledging the possibility of forgotten chapters, and recognizing that our current civilization might not be the first, nor necessarily the most advanced, that this planet has ever seen. The search for these echoes continues, driven by an insatiable curiosity and the profound realization that the past holds keys not just to who we were, but to who we might become. So, what secrets do you think are still waiting to be uncovered? Let me know where you're watching this from in the comments below. Your perspective adds another layer to this shared exploration. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you're as fascinated by these ancient mysteries as I am. Of these ancient enigmas isn't merely an intellectual exercise. It strikes at the core of our collective identity. When we ponder civilizations that predate recorded history, societies that vanished without leaving a clear written record of their existence, we're not just looking at archaeological sites. We're peering into a mirror reflecting the impermanence of all human endeavors. It forces us to confront the humbling reality that even the most advanced and sophisticated cultures can be swallowed by time. Their achievements turn to dust, their stories whispered only by the winds that sweep across forgotten landscapes. Consider for a moment the psychological impact of such a revelation. If established history, the history we've been taught in schools and textbooks, is merely a recent snapshot, a thin veneer over millennia of forgotten human activity, what does that say about our understanding of progress, of civility, of humanity's journey itself? The linear progression we often assume, from primitive cave dwellers to modern technological societies, becomes far more complex, perhaps even cyclical. If highly advanced cultures existed, then collapsed, only to be rediscovered millennia later by a subsequent civilization starting almost from scratch, it paints a very different picture of human development. It suggests a pattern of rise and fall, of incredible ingenuity followed by catastrophic decline, a historical rhythm that is far more nuanced and perhaps more unsettling than the steady march of progress we prefer to believe in. This perspective doesn't undermine the achievements of current civilization. Rather, it places them within a vastly expanded historical context. It suggests that our current technological prowess, while impressive, might not be unique in the grand sweep of time. It opens the door to the possibility that some of the greatest breakthroughs, the most profound insights into science, engineering, or even consciousness might have occurred in eras we now label as prehistoric, their knowledge lost to us, waiting to be rediscovered, or perhaps never to be known again. Think about the implications for fields beyond archaeology. Astronomy, for instance. Could ancient cultures have possessed knowledge of celestial mechanics, planetary alignments, or even distant star systems that rivaled or surpassed what we considered possible before the advent of modern telescopes? The meticulously aligned structures at sites like Göbekli Tepe, with their astronomical implications, or the precision of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which seems to encode advanced geometric and astronomical constants, hint at intellectual traditions far more sophisticated than simple hunter-gatherer societies or early agricultural communities. If these ancient peoples were carefully tracking precession or making observations that allowed them to predict complex celestial events, how did they acquire such profound understanding without the tools and methodologies we deem necessary today? Was it through a different kind of observation, a more intuitive understanding, or perhaps a legacy passed down from an even earlier, hyper-advanced civilization? Then there's the question of energy and technology. We often assume that complex machinery and high-energy processes are a recent development. But what if primitive wasn't always synonymous with low technology? The sheer scale and complexity of some ancient megalithic sites, where enormous stones are cut, transported, and precisely placed with a level of accuracy that confounds modern engineers, have led some to speculate about forgotten technologies. How were multi-ton blocks of granite, some weighing hundreds of tons, moved over long distances and then lifted into place? Often with incredibly tight tolerances, mainstream explanations usually involve vast armies of laborers, ramps, and incredible ingenuity with simple tools. Yet, even with modern equipment, replicating some of these feats is a monumental challenge, and in many cases, would require different approaches than are currently proposed. The precision cutting found on some ancient stones, almost as if they were machined, suggests tools capable of exerting immense pressure or employing unknown cutting methods. The vitrified forts found in Scotland, where stone walls appear to have been melted and fused by intense heat, pose another mystery. Was this an accidental result of ancient warfare, or a deliberate engineering technique that points to a lost understanding of high-temperature processes? These are not easily dismissed anomalies. They are concrete physical manifestations that challenge our accepted narrative of technological evolution. And what about the concept of human consciousness itself? Modern psychology and neuroscience are only beginning to scratch the surface of the human mind. Could earlier civilizations have had a more profound understanding of consciousness, of the mind-body connection, or of non-ordinary states of awareness? Many ancient traditions speak of altered states, of direct perception, of accessing information through means that transcend our contemporary scientific understanding. Is it possible that the knowledge of these forgotten civilizations encompassed more than just material science, extending into areas we now label as spiritual or metaphysical, but which they understood as integral to reality itself? The intricate symbolism, advanced cosmology, and often complex philosophical systems found in the vestiges of these cultures suggest a deep engagement with existential questions that goes far beyond mere survival. The implications for our understanding of human intelligence and potential are vast. If humans thousands, or even tens of thousands, of years ago were capable of constructing feats of engineering that baffle us today, or held knowledge that we are only now painstakingly rediscovering, it suggests a baseline of human capability that far exceeds our current assumptions for these periods. It means that primitive man as a concept might be a severe underestimation, a convenient label that masks incredible intellectual and creative capacities. This idea challenges the very foundation of our educational systems and scientific paradigms, which are largely built upon a linear, progressive view of history. If we accept the possibility of advanced predecessors, then categories like Stone Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age become less about fundamental human intelligence and more about the available materials and environmental conditions of a specific era. A highly intelligent civilization could, theoretically, exist in any age, perhaps one we are currently not even aware of having existed. The resistance to these alternative historical narratives is understandable. Academia, like any established institution, operates on paradigms and peer-reviewed consensus. Introducing concepts like lost advanced civilizations or pre-cataclysmic high technology can be seen as revolutionary, even paradigm-shattering. It means re-evaluating mountains of published research, reinterpreting countless artifacts, and perhaps even rewriting textbooks. This is not a small undertaking, and it often meets with skepticism and outright dismissal from those invested in the current framework. However, science, at its best, is about adapting to new evidence, even when that evidence challenges cherished beliefs. The historical record is replete with examples of scientific paradigms being overturned by persistent anomalies and courageous individuals willing to question the status quo. Discovery of quantum mechanics. All were initially met with resistance, yet ultimately advanced our understanding of reality. The re-evaluation of deep antiquity might be another such paradigm shift in the making. The role of cataclysms in shaping this hidden history cannot be overstated. Geologists and climatologists increasingly acknowledge that Earth's past has been punctuated by massive, sudden, and globally impactful events. Asteroid strikes, supervolcano eruptions, rapid climate shifts, and devastating floods. If highly technical civilizations existed, they would not be immune to these forces. A cataclysmic event, especially one of global scale, could easily wipe out much of a civilization's infrastructure, knowledge base, and population, leaving only fragmented clues for future generations to puzzle over. Think about the potential for widespread tsunamis to obliterate coastal cities, or continent-spanning ice sheets to bury entire landscapes. Furthermore, the very nature of such an event could lead to a dark age, where the survivors, scattered and disoriented, would have to focus on basic survival, losing access to the complex skills and knowledge that define their previous high culture. This isn't just speculation. It's a pattern seen even in more recent historical eras, where regional collapses have led to periods of lost technology and decline. Imagine this on a global scale, affecting multiple continents simultaneously. The knowledge of how to build sophisticated structures, how to generate advanced power, or how to navigate using intricate celestial charts could simply vanish as the few survivors struggle to rebuild from scratch, leaving only enigmatic ruins as a testament to their former glory. Consider the psychological impact on the survivors of such an event. Traumatized and focused purely on survival, their narratives would likely devolve into myths and legends, stories of a golden age or a great flood that might contain echoes of truth, but would be increasingly distorted over generations. These oral traditions, when finally written down much later, would be dismissed by future historians as allegories or fanciful tales, rather than potential records of actual events. Yet many ancient myths, from a wide array of cultures across the globe, share remarkable similarities, particularly regarding great floods and a primordial deluge that wiped out an earlier world. Are these coincidences, or are they collective cultural memories of shared traumatic experiences that reverberate through time? The work of researchers like Graham Hancock, Robert Schoch, and Randall Carlson, while often controversial within mainstream archaeological circles, has been instrumental in bringing these questions to a wider audience. They challenge us to look beyond conventional timelines and consider alternative interpretations of geological and archaeological evidence. Schoch's redating of the Sphinx, suggesting water erosion predating the dynastic Egyptians by thousands of years, is one such example that fundamentally shifts our understanding of the timelines for monumental construction in Egypt. If the Sphinx is far older, then the civilization capable of creating it must also be far older, pushing back the accepted dawn of complex society into a period we currently label as simply prehistoric. Carlson's work on cyclical cataclysms, particularly the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, provides a compelling mechanism for such a global reset. The idea that a cometary impact or airburst around 12,800 years ago could have triggered a sudden deep freeze, widespread wildfires, and devastating floods across the planet offers a plausible explanation for the abrupt disappearance of the megafauna and, potentially, an advanced human civilization. The geological evidence for such an event, including widespread impact proxies and rapid environmental shifts, is growing and becoming harder to dismiss. If this event occurred, it would have been an extinction-level catastrophe for many species, and certainly for any established human societies at the time. The implications of this hypothesis are profound. It suggests that around the time Göbekli Tepe was being meticulously constructed, perhaps as a memorial or a sanctuary in the aftermath, the world was reeling from an unprecedented global disaster. The sudden appearance of highly organized, astronomically sophisticated building projects in regions previously considered to be home to simple hunter-gatherers starts to make more sense as an intentional effort to preserve or restart civilization after a collapse, rather than a spontaneous emergence from nothing. This line of inquiry also forces us to reconsider the definition of civilization itself. Do highly organized hunter-gatherer societies, capable of monumental construction and deep astronomical knowledge, qualify as civilization even if they don't leave behind cities or extensive written records, if their cities were destroyed by cataclysms, or if their knowledge was primarily transmitted orally or embedded in symbolic architecture rather than written texts? Our current criteria might be too narrow. The very term prehistoric might simply reflect our own ignorance of their sophisticated ways. The search for these echoes of a forgotten past is not just about historical accuracy, it's about humility. It's about recognizing the limitations of our current knowledge and the vastness of what we still don't know. It's about being open to possibilities that might seem extraordinary at first glance, but which are supported by increasing amounts of evidence that don't fit into the comfortable boxes of established theory. This quest demands intellectual courage, a willingness to question assumptions, and a commitment to following the evidence wherever it leads, even if it overturns long-held beliefs. And it's a living, evolving quest. New discoveries are constantly being made. Innovations in remote sensing, like LiDAR technology, are revealing previously unknown megalithic structures beneath dense rainforests in places like the Amazon or Central America. Underwater archaeology is uncovering submerged cities and ancient coastlines that radically alter our understanding of sea levels and human settlement patterns in the distant past. Genetic studies are tracing human migrations and cultural relationships in ways that were previously impossible. Each of these new frontiers of research holds the potential to add more pieces to this extraordinary puzzle. The future of archaeology, and indeed our understanding of human history, lies in interdisciplinary cooperation. It requires archaeologists to collaborate more closely with geologists, climatologists, astronomers, linguists, and even consciousness researchers. It demands an open mind from all disciplines, a willingness to integrate data from diverse sources, and to construct new narratives that are more encompassing and robust. This isn't about replacing established history with wild speculation, but about enriching it, making it more complete, and ultimately more accurate. It's about acknowledging that the human story is far grander, more complex, and perhaps more mysterious than we have previously allowed ourselves to imagine. The world before is not just a historical curiosity. It is a profound testament to the resilience, ingenuity, and perhaps cyclical nature of human civilization. The lessons contained within its forgotten chapters about environmental destruction, societal collapse, and the enduring human spirit could hold vital clues for our own future. To ponder these cosmic alignments, we are not just looking backward into a distant past. We are, in a very real sense, looking inward and forward. We are searching for deeper truths about human potential, about the delicate balance between civilization and nature, and about the fundamental cycles that govern existence on this planet. The questions we ask about these forgotten worlds are ultimately questions about ourselves, our purpose, and the path we are currently treading. What will future generations say about our civilization? Will our monuments endure, or will we too become a forgotten chapter, a mystery for those who come after? The echoes of the past serve as both a warning and an inspiration, reminding us that while civilizations may rise and fall, the human quest for knowledge, meaning, and connection to the vastness of the cosmos is an eternal flame that continues to burn, lighting the way through the longest stretches of forgotten time. And as you contemplate these profound possibilities, remember that every piece of information, every new perspective, helps to co-create a more complete and accurate tapestry of our shared past. This tapestry, however, is not a static image. It's a living, breathing narrative, constantly being rewoven as new archaeological discoveries come to light, as new scientific methods allow us to peer deeper into the material record, and as our own understanding of what constitutes history expands. Consider the ongoing revolution in genetic research, for instance. DNA analysis, once the domain of forensic science, is now providing unprecedented insights into ancient human migrations, population bottlenecks, and even interbreeding events with other hominin species that were previously only theorized or dismissed entirely. The discovery of Denisovans, for example, through a tiny finger bone and a single tooth, demonstrated that our understanding of recent human evolution was far from complete, revealing a lineage that coexisted and interbred with our direct ancestors, leaving genetic imprints in modern populations, particularly across Asia and Oceania. This isn't just a footnote in history. It fundamentally alters our perception of who we are and where we came from, suggesting a much more complex and interwoven tapestry of ancient humanity than simplified models of out-of-Africa migrations had previously allowed. And it's not just about ancient human species. Paleoclimate data, derived from ice cores, tree rings, and ocean sediment, paints a vivid picture of the environmental conditions these ancient civilizations contended with. We can now reconstruct rainfall patterns, temperature fluctuations, and even catastrophic events like volcanic eruptions or meteor impacts with remarkable precision. Imagine understanding, in minute detail, the millennia-long drought that might have precipitated the collapse of a flourishing society, or the sudden dramatic climate shift that forced mass migrations and the abandonment of once fertile lands. This environmental context is crucial, moving beyond simplistic narratives of warfare or internal strife as the sole drivers of societal change. It introduces a powerful, often overlooked, protagonist into the historical drama: the Earth itself. Its cycles, its temperament, its profound influence on the rise and fall of human endeavors. The study of ancient megalithic structures, those awe-inspiring stone monuments found across the globe, is another area ripe for a paradigm shift. For too long, the prevailing narrative reduced these monumental feats of engineering to the work of primitive peoples using brute force and simple tools. But a closer examination, often involving archaeoastronomy and advanced surveying techniques, reveals an astonishing level of mathematical sophistication, astronomical knowledge, and perhaps even a deep understanding of natural energies that we are only just beginning to grasp. When you stand before structures like Göbekli Tepe, pushing back the timeline of monumental architecture by thousands of years, or consider the precision with which Stonehenge aligns with solstices, it prompts a fundamental re-evaluation of our assumptions about the cognitive capabilities of early humans. Were these just hunter-gatherers with an inexplicable urge to lift heavy stones, or were they inheritors of a knowledge tradition far older and more complex than we've given them credit for? The very act of challenging these entrenched assumptions is not an assault on science or history. Rather, it is the purest form of scientific inquiry, questioning, observing, and seeking explanations that best fit the evidence. The pushback sometimes encountered by researchers who venture into these fringe areas often stems from a reluctance to dislodge deeply embedded paradigms. It's comforting to believe we have a firm grasp on the past, neat chronological boxes, and clear lines of progression. But true scientific progress often involves messy, uncomfortable revelations that force us to tear down old mental models and build new ones, more complex and nuanced, that better reflect the bewildering richness of reality. The world before challenges us to be intellectually nimble, to shed our preconceptions, and to embrace the unknown with an open mind. Think about the implications if some of these alternative theories gain wider acceptance, not just in the popular imagination, but within mainstream academia. What if a sophisticated global civilization did predate the last ice age? What if they possessed technologies or understandings of physics that we ourselves are only now rediscovering? The entire timeline of human progress would need to be rewritten. Our sense of linear advancement, from primitive cave dwellers to technologically advanced modern humans, would be revealed as an incomplete, possibly even self-serving narrative. It would suggest that intelligence, technological prowess, and even spiritual insights are not a straight-line progression, but perhaps cyclical, rising and falling with the fortunes of various civilizations. This cyclical view is not without precedent in ancient philosophies. Many indigenous cultures around the world speak of ages or worlds that have come before, some ending in cataclysm, others fading away into time. The Hindu Yuga cycles, the Mayan long count, the Hopi world ages, these are not merely poetic metaphors. They reflect a worldview where time is not purely linear, but rather a spiraling dance of creation, preservation, and destruction. Could these ancient narratives be echoes of actual historical events, passed down through generations, distorted by time, but retaining kernels of truth about lost epochs? If so, the study of ancient myths and oral traditions takes on a new urgency, moving from mere folklore to potential historical sources, albeit ones requiring careful interpretation and analysis. The global distribution of certain symbols, motifs, and architectural styles also begs for a deeper explanation than parallel invention or diffusion across land bridges. Consider The ubiquity of the serpent or dragon motif, the pyramid shape, the swastika in its original positive connotations, or the concept of a great flood. While some universal archetypes might explain certain commonalities, the astonishing consistency of specific complex ideas and artistic expressions across continents separated by vast oceans strongly suggests a deeper connection, of circumnavigating the globe long before the Phoenicians or Vikings. The discovery of mysterious artifacts with origins thousands of miles away from their apparent resting places, or the genetic evidence of long-distance intercontinental travel in ancient times, is increasingly difficult to dismiss. These are not isolated anomalies, but pieces of a much larger global puzzle that suggests a far more interconnected world before than we have previously imagined. And what about the sheer engineering marvels that defy easy explanation with known ancient technologies? The precision stone cutting at Pumapunku, where blocks fit together with microscopic tolerances, the vitrified forts in Scotland, whose stones appear to have been melted and fused by intense heat, the obelisks of Egypt, cut and moved with a mastery that still stumps modern engineers. Mainstream explanations often resort to trial and error or lost techniques as a catch-all. But when faced with such pervasive, high-level engineering across multiple ancient sites, the questions arise. What if these lost techniques were part of a more advanced technological understanding? What if simple levers and ropes are an insufficient explanation for moving and shaping stones weighing hundreds or thousands of tons with such accuracy? The possibility that ancient peoples understood principles of sound resonance, electromagnetism, or even anti-gravity, concepts that sound like science fiction to us today, should not be dismissed outright, simply because they challenge our current understanding of history. The history of science itself is replete with examples of what was once considered impossible, later becoming commonplace. The intellectual courage required to explore these avenues is immense. It asks us to confront the possibility that our present technological paradigms are not the pinnacle of human achievement, but merely one iteration, one branch on a potentially vast tree of knowledge and technology that has bloomed and withered countless times before. It means looking at the past not as a linear progression towards our present state, but as a complex, multi-layered story with peaks and troughs, forgotten advances, and devastating regressions. The world before is not just about ancient ruins. It's about a potential reframing of human ingenuity and resilience on a scale we've barely begun to consider. Moreover, the very sources of historical knowledge are often subject to bias and manipulation. Victorious empires write the histories, often obliterating or reinterpreting the narratives of those they conquered. Religious institutions preserve texts that align with their dogma, while suppressing or destroying those that contradict it. Even archaeological excavation itself is an act of interpretation, with what is deemed significant, often filtered through contemporary academic frameworks. Recognizing these inherent biases is crucial to piecing together a more accurate picture of the past. It means looking beyond the official narratives, studying the artifacts themselves with fresh eyes, and giving voice to the marginalized or forgotten perspectives. The implication here is profound. If entire civilizations and their profound achievements can be lost to time, eradicated by catastrophe, or systematically erased from memory, what else remains hidden? What else have we overlooked, dismissed, or simply not yet discovered? This pursuit is not merely academic. It has very real implications for our own future. If cycles of rise and fall, of advanced civilization and catastrophic reset are a recurring theme in human history, then understanding the mechanisms of those cycles becomes paramount. What were the environmental triggers? What were the societal vulnerabilities? Can we identify these patterns in our own modern world and perhaps, just perhaps, learn from the mistakes of those who came before to avert a similar fate? The echoes of the past can be heard in the warnings about climate change, resource depletion, and geopolitical instability. Are we, in our modern hubris, repeating patterns that have led to the downfall of previous advanced societies. The world before offers a sobering mirror, reflecting back not just forgotten triumphs, but also timeless lessons about sustainability, societal cohesion, and the delicate balance between technological progress and ethical responsibility. It reminds us that our civilization, despite its impressive achievements, is not immune to the forces that have shaped and reshaped human societies throughout deep time. To truly understand the world before demands a holistic approach, one that integrates not just archaeology and geology, but also anthropology, linguistics, oceanography, astronomy, and even consciousness studies. It requires a willingness to entertain radical ideas, to follow the evidence wherever it leads, even if it overturns cherished beliefs. It means fostering an intellectual climate where questioning is encouraged, where multidisciplinary collaboration is the norm, and where the pursuit of truth takes precedence over the preservation of outdated dogmas. Ultimately, delving into the mysteries of the world before is not just about solving historical puzzles. It's about expanding our understanding of human potential. It challenges the notion that we are merely a product of linear, incremental progress, suggesting instead a much richer, more nuanced, and perhaps even cyclical narrative of human ingenuity and knowledge. It encourages us to look at the world around us with new eyes, to see the ancient stones not just as remnants of a distant past, but as messages encoded in the landscape, waiting for us to decipher. To understand that the very ground beneath our feet often holds secrets of lost worlds, complex societies, and perhaps even technological achievements that rival or even surpass our own.